So dudes, I'm about to get my super in 36 seconds. That's pretty much it. Geomag Stabilizers are back, and I can say with certainty that it is better than it was in Forsaken. With the launch of Season of the Witch, Geomags got buffed to allow Ionic Traces grant 2% super energy on pickup with no cooldown. This is on top of making Chaos Reach last longer on hit. So instead of the ugly duckling, Geomags get to be on the list of worthy exotic armor for Stormcallers like Crown of Tempest, Fallen Sunstar, Getaway Artist, and even Vesper of Radius. So like you can probably tell from the thumbnail, it went from a beta to a chat. Let's get started with the build. Chaos Reach is the only super that Geomag Stabilizers work with, but it is the better super in general for burst DPS and some focus ad clear. The build today doesn't have much survivability, so I chose to run Healing Rift. The melee ability I chose to use was Ball Lightning because it can chunk some beefier ads, and because it can completely shut off lanes of entry when we are amplified. The grenade is entirely up to preference. However, I chose to use Blinding Grenade for the crowd control. It's useful for curbing some aggro and can take some heat off. Pulse Grenade is another great option and is really easy to use, so the choice is up to you. For the aspects, I ran with Arc Soul and Electrostatic Mind. Arc Soul gives us the little buddies when we put down a rift and causes it to recharge faster when we are near allies. When given to a full fire team, they can help a ton with trash ad clear and even aim better than blueberries. It's a shame that they just can't fully replace them though. Electrostatic Mind spawns an Ionic Trace upon killing a blinded or jolted target and makes us amplified when collecting a trace. Ionic Traces refund 12.5% of our melee and grenade energy and 15% of our ripped energy on pickup. Keep in mind that this will also grant 2% of our super energy due to Geomag Stabilizers. For the fragments, I ran Spark of Amplitude, Discharge, Resistance, and Shock. Amplitude spawns an Orb of Power when rapidly killing enemies while amplified. Discharge causes arc weapon kills to progress an internal counter that spawns an Ionic Trace upon reaching 100%. Resistance grants us a 25% damage resist buff when near 3 enemies within 15 meters. And lastly, Spark of Shock causes our grenades to jolt targets for ad clear and DPS. Should you choose to use blinding grenades, you can stun unstoppable and overload champions with one ability. Now let's get down to the Kamehameha armor. For the helmet, I equipped Harmonic Siphon, Dynamo, and Special Ammo Finder. Dynamo can be swapped for Heavy Ammo Finder if you see fit. On the arms, I ran Grenade Kickstart, Impact Induction, and Bolstering Detonation. On the Exquisite Bathrobe, I chose to use Harmonic Reserves and 2 Variable Resistance mods. On Geomag Stabilizers was Harmonic Scavenger, Recuperation, and Elemental Charge. If Elemental Charge is not your thing, consider switching it out for Absolution. And finally, on the Bond, I equipped Bomber, Distribution, and Powerful Attraction. This build is a glass cannon, but despite that, I chose to run 100 Resilience for the better chances of survival. I would recommend getting Discipline and Recovery up as much as possible to reduce ability cooldowns further. Usually Super Saiyans don't use weapons, but I'll recommend you some anyways. Weapon loadout 1 is the one that I am using in the footage. We will be using Round Robin in the kinetic slot. I realize you guys may be tired of hearing me use it, but I cannot praise Hatchling enough. Having Threadling spawn on a precision kill is great for making quick work of groups. Now, if you want to use something else, I can steer you to Rufus's Fury with a Demolished Hatchling roll. As you've probably been able to tell, we're rocking Cold Heart in the energy slot. It can spawn Ionic Traces on its own after reaching its maximum damage state with a 2-second cooldown. This works wonders with Spark of Discharge, causing some kills to spawn 2 Ionic Traces. In the heavy slot, I am using the new Arc Machine Gun Electrostatic Principle. It's a rapid fire frame and feels great to use. You can craft yours with Target Lock or Golden Tricorn for some serious firepower. Weapon loadout 2 is an alternative for those who don't like trace rifles. In the kinetic slot, I opted to use Chattering Bone, but you could easily get away with using Randy's throwing knife. The important thing here is to have the kinetic tremors perk for long range AoE. In the kinetic slot, I used Delicate Tomb. Like Cold Heart, it can create Ionic Traces, but it can also jolt enemies for easier ad clear. With its catalyst, it can circumvent the need to constantly reload. In the heavy slot, I used Half Truths for the added mobility it can provide via Eager Edge. Let's go over the game loop. Start encounters by throwing a grenade at a group to apply jolt to them, and kill them using Cold Heart to generate Ionic Traces. At the same time, try to close the gap and cast a rift to activate Dynamo for more super energy. At this point, traces will continue to spawn, so cycle abilities and continue to proc Dynamo where possible. Use cover and use Cold Heart to top off Chaos Reach. There's no use holding onto your super once you get it, so lock your eyes on an unfortunate group or mini-boss and let loose. If you kill them early, cancel Chaos Reach to preserve some super energy and rinse and repeat. Geomag Stabilizers are actually super fun to use. The fact that I haven't seen more people talking about them is surprising to me. I hope you guys manage to try it out for yourselves, and thank you for watching, and happy farming.